I want to go back to July 10th. Stephen and I went to China. Now, why did we go to China? It's a never-ending battle with TorkStrap. I have a product that's really difficult to make. And that may not make sense because there's no electronics, there's no circuitry, there's no programming, there's no apps. It's just a damn strap with a spring in it. The problem is the only factories who would be somewhat interested in making a strap with a spring in it is companies making straps. And the companies making straps have been doing it the same way for 100 years. That's why my product is successful, because I'm changing something that hasn't been tampered with. But that's why my product is challenging, because the factories don't want to heat shrink. They don't want to implement springs. They don't want to sew in places they've never sewn before. And my product requires sewing in very specific dimensions. And tape measures and sewing machines don't really go hand in hand as far as efficiency. So what I had to do was go to China and convey to them, hey, this is the trend that's happening in America. You can probably sense the BS in my voice right there. This is the trend that I observe that's happening in America. People are tired of simple straps and they want something unique that's going to work. We own the patent on that. We're the only ones that can do it. Therefore, we need you guys to produce these at a faster rate, and we need better payment terms, and we need better pricing. So of those three requests that I threw at the factory, price, terms, and speed, I got one of them. Luckily, it was the most important one, and that was speed. What happens when you put in an order with a factory and it's not huge? Not huge is pretty much anything under 10,000 pieces. What happens is you get put on the back burner. And what I learned, the reason is the boss of the factory can't wait to get paid. He's funding his life off of these orders. And if you're not a big fish, you're going to get put on the back burner. I'm still on the back burner. So when I convinced them that this was the trend in America, and you guys are the factory producing for TorkStrap, and any amount of straps you produce, I will sell, guaranteed. And that's true. We sell out every quarter. So that carried a little bit of weight with the factory. They said, all right, we're listening. But I quickly found out that when you're in China, it's not so much about convincing them of anything. It's kind of a horse and pony show for the boss of the factory to take you out. It's a strange thing. The boss of the factory loves to wine and dine foreign clients, be that US, European, Australian, what have you. It doesn't matter. And what I surmised by the end of it was the boss loves the opportunity to say, look how well we're doing. And he should. Kudos to him. So that's why we went. That's what I was trying to accomplish, and that's what we did. So I'll kind of tell you the story. So Stephen and I, we flew to Shanghai via Emirates. We departed from Los Angeles. I think it was 12 hours to Dubai. We stayed overnight in Dubai, and then we flew the rest of the way. It was probably another 8 hours to Shanghai. Got to Shanghai very late at night, 1 a.m. And then we took a van with a professional driver in China to Ningbo. That was about a 3-hour drive. So we arrive at our hotel 3, 4 in the morning. We crash, and the next morning I wake up and I see beautiful Ningbo, China in front of me. A little bit facetious. Beautiful is not the right word. Interesting is definitely the right word. A fine layer of haze laid over the land. Ningbo and any other city you've heard of or not heard of, covered in buildings. The sad thing is a lot of the buildings are apartments that aren't fully populated. And I asked the driver on the way down when I was looking at the lights in the apartments, what's up with these places? They're huge, but I only see a few lights on in this entire apartment complex. And he says, well, nobody can afford them. And I said, well, if no one can afford them, wouldn't the landlord or the property owner lower the price? I mean, that's economics 101 as us stupid Americans know it. He said, no, the government controls the rent price. If you can't afford it, sucks to be you. So that morning I'm looking over Ningbo. The buildings are big, but they're all kind of run down, a little bit sun damaged, a little bit in need of TLC. The hotel's nice. It's standard. It was a chain. I can't remember, but you've heard of it. And it just had a little bit of a funk to it. The whole place just had a little bit of a, I don't know. It was almost like, you know how a library has a distinct old book smell? This had like a distinct old blanket smell. Steven didn't complain. Maybe it was just me, but when you inhaled, you knew you weren't home, and that kind of made you homesick. Running water, flushing toilets, great shower. What else do you need? Continental breakfast in the morning. Hey, I'm at home. So that day we go to the factory, finally get to meet Jay, my salesman, the guy I've been texting. You guys know you're texting these guys and they're, yes, dear honey, you should get some rest now, and the awkward conversations and the conversations that take 5 days to convey how long our red sleeve is, something so simple that takes so long. Now I'm sitting in the car with this guy. And what a difference. His English sucked, but what a difference it was speaking to him in person. We didn't start talking business right away, but we did try to exchange pleasantries on the way to the factory. It was about a 25-minute drive. But I got to tell you, it was pretty damn awkward. The Chinese in China, I suppose when they're dealing with the, quote, boss like myself, they're very uptight. They're very humble. They watch what they say. In China, you don't cross the line with the boss. Even though Jay was probably 12 years my senior or more, guy's approaching 50, he just wanted to stay on point and stick with the facts. And the fact was that we're going to be at the factory in 22 minutes. The fact was our flight was decent. The fact was that Jay lives over on that side of town and his wife's an accountant, blah, blah, blah. So what I'm getting at is it was a very polished conversation. We get to the factory, and it's about like I expected. Look, I've worked in factories in the U.S., in the Midwest. I've seen plenty of pictures, videos of these factories. You can pretty much picture it was tight, small streets, alleyway entrance to a factory, building stacked 6 floors high, small floors, and different thing happening on each level. So all in all, I'd say each floor of the building was about 200 feet by 200 feet, giant square. And let's say on the first floor was the webbing and the milling. On the second floor was the sewing and the assembly. Third floor, packaging and shipping. Fourth floor, just storage. And fifth floor was the offices. I immediately thought to myself, this seems about right, and let's get down to business. So we go upstairs to the 5th floor, and we go into the boss's office area, which is a series of smaller offices and conference rooms before you get to the boss's ginormous office. I mean, it was the size of a pickleball court. And Jay sits us down. We don't go in his office. He sits us down at the conference table. Man, I'm nervous because Steven's been warning me about the cigarettes and the pleasantries. If you get offered a drink, accept it. And here comes the boss. He can't be more than 5'3" tall, probably in his late 50s, early 60s. Doesn't speak one word of English. Can't even say our names. Literally can't repeat Steven back to him. Steven's Chinese name ended up being Stifu. So Stifu and I were sitting at the table. He comes out, he shakes our hands, and Jay's translating. He's very happy to meet you. He offers us some tea. I'm about to say no. I'm a wreck, man. I'm so nervous. And Steven bumps my leg. He goes, accept it, or take the tea. I said, yeah, tea. Sounds great. So they bring out some tea. It's full of leaves. Not my cup of tea, but I drink it nonetheless. And out come the cigarettes. And oh my God, did they start coming. He starts flinging out cigarettes like frisbees to everybody at the table. Steven refuses, and he's good. Me, hey, I'm not allergic to nicotine. I'm not allergic to tobacco. I ain't no punk. Throw me one of those darts. And they're these skinny looking suckers. They're pretty funny to hold in your hand. And we light up, and there I am, before I know it, leaning back in my chair with a ciggy between my index and middle finger. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm doing business. An uneducated guy from the Midwest has just traveled planes, trains, and automobiles to Ningbo, China. And here I am ripping a dart with the general manager of this factory. So after some awkwardness, some people getting up, some people getting down, I don't really know where we're going to start, when we're going to start. Finally, the four of us, or five of us actually, there was a product manager at the end of the table. We're sitting at the conference room, and I just start talking. And I tell them what I aim to accomplish with this trip. Hey guys, look, we've come a long way to be here. We're very excited. TorkStrap is doing big things in the United States. And everything I mentioned to you guys earlier, we have something faster, safer, smarter. And we hold the patent. We're the only ones who can sell it. And we need to get as many of these in as many hands as possible. And we need to do it at a fair cost. So my goal is to establish a strong supply chain with you, build a good relationship, and make good friends. Jay translates. My boss says, this is good. All right, then let's get into it. I want to see how the products are made. Okay, we'll do that. What else do you want to do? I want to discuss our next order. Okay, we'll do that. What else do you want to do? I want to have a great time with you. Yes. So right there at the table, we laid out the agenda, and we decided, well, let's go downstairs and let's see how your products are made. So I go downstairs. I see where my products are being made. They definitely put their best foot forward for my visit. Rightfully so. Who wouldn't? You know, before I was just some name in their messenger app, and now I'm a guy standing over the table watching my products being made. You can tell they put their top guys on it. And man, these dudes just had their heads down, throwing on the sleeve, looping the hook through the thing, throwing on the heat shrink, putting it under the heat gun, readying the next one, had somebody in front of them, somebody behind them to keep everything moving. I mean, you've all seen it. But they were really doing it. And I noticed a problem right away. They were only using one heat gun. When we used to make them, we would use two heat guns, one at the top of the table and one under the bottom of the table. So you're heating the shrink from two directions. And I said, hey, this is a big miss. And so I told them, you need to put a gun at the bottom of the table. So they just instantly, some guy, don't even know, never even seen him before. He's wearing shorts and flip-flops, sprints over, grabs a piece of plywood, grabs a 2x4, and he starts zip tying and stapling stuff together. I mean, they're not official about any of this. My order is only 8,000 pieces. They're not about to build an official table for me, right? They just kind of throw it together. And at this point, I don't really care. You know, they're a third-party contractor. You want to sit a guy on a short metal stool that sits no more than 6 inches off the ground and have them assemble these with wonky heat guns zip tied to a 2x4? Fine, do it, as long as he's not complaining. And so we addressed that problem, and they were trying to put this table together, and they weren't really getting the heat guns right. The bottom heat gun was like 3 inches away, while the top heat gun was like a ½ inch away. It was, and they just, I don't know. I'm kind of like a rough and tough construction worker type. I handed Steven my little dorky front purse. Fanny pack looking thing that you have to have, because you got to have your passport, your hotel keys, your cell phone, some money, some yen, all that. So I opted for the doofusy front pouch. Handed that to Steven, and I got down on the ground and I cut off all the zip ties, readjusted the guns, and they're at my beck and call. They're running, they're grabbing me more zip ties, they're getting me a piece of cardboard to sit on, and I'm good. Like, watch, and I put it together right, and then I got up, and then the kid sat back down. He kept on making straps. He wasn't really digging it, and he wasn't getting what the change was supposed to do or how he was supposed to heat it. So I just said to Fisher, was his name. He's kind of the product manager. I said, "Can I sit down? Can you tell this guy to take a break, and I'll sit down and make them?" Okay. So he taps the kid on the shoulder and tells him to, put an egg in his shoe and beat it. And the kid was almost like put off, like, what? Well, you're like eye roll type of situation. I don't know what that was about. Maybe he's paid by production, so he thought, is this going to affect my pay today? So I sit down and I grab a TorkStrap, and I've made thousands of these, right? I grab a TorkStrap, I throw the hook in, I drop the fabric sleeve on, I drop the heat shrink on, done it a million times, and I adjust it, I put it under the heat, and I'm showing them how you don't have to spin it and flip it now, and how great is this. And embarrassingly enough, I finished that strap, and it looked like dog crap. And that was pretty humbling. I thought to myself, wow, because I'm looking at the pile that this kid is cranking out, and they're flawless. And it used to be the other way around. It used to be they would make these straps so bad that I could make them better with my eyes closed. And now, trying very hard to show them a perfect strap, and my heat shrink didn't line up. There was a bubble in it. The webbing had a little crease in it. Some glue puked out. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I stood up, I patted the kid on the shoulder, and I patted the floor manager on the shoulder, and I said, you guys are much better at making these than I am. And I felt like a doofus, because at first I'm like swooping in to build the table myself, and I'm impressing them. The boss is getting on the ground, and it all flopped, because at the end I made the worst looking TorkStrap in existence. Had to go straight in the trash. It's terrible. So, excuse me a second, getting a little parched. That was the factory floor experience. Now, that went on and on for a couple days, but essentially that was the gist of it. Was I wanted to get on the floor, and I wanted to make it known that I'm going to make sure these are made well. I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty, and I think they really respected that. So then it was lunchtime, and we had lunch with the boss, the salesman, the product manager. He's like the guy on the floor, Fisher, I mentioned, Stifu, and Ivan, the owner. And we go to this special lunchroom. The employees eat lunch kind of in a cafeteria. They have 30 minutes, and they're provided lunch every day. I can't imagine it was very good, because the lunch I was provided was okay at best. So it's the spinny table. Everybody goes family style. And immediately I noticed that the sanitation is non-existent. The awareness of germ sharing, not there, because we're all taking these sloppy chopsticks that were deep in our throats and sticking them into a shared plate of like noodles or chicken strips, whatever the hell they were. So I'm thinking, okay, well, if I wasn't sick before, I'm definitely going to be after this trip. And that turned out to be true. So we're eating all this food, and everything's a little different. I mean, there was pieces of chicken that had a big piece of skin on it. It was very off-putting. It was like chewing on a piece of bathtub caulk, and it was cool. It wasn't warm, so that was awkward. There was crab, which was supposed to be the best part, and it was good, but again, it was almost like, I don't know. It was definitely factory food, not restaurant food. And then I found out that to show gratitude towards the food that you're eating, you slurp it and you smack it and spit it and swap it. You make as much noise as possible. And that was really uncomfortable for Steven and I. He had been to China once. He was starting to embrace it, but me, I was like, oh, and I'm from Christian Midwest house, elbows off the table, I can hear you chewing. I can hear you chewing. I was always told that growing up, and then I'm going to this. What a juxtaposition to what I was used to. So Steven kind of leans over. He's like, hey, just embrace it. He kind of gave me those nods. We had those conversations before. So I'm like, well, F it. I'm the boss of my company. He's the boss of his. And I started slurping and smacking like the rest of them. And I could do it with the best of them. By the end of the trip, I was the loudest eater there, and the boss just loved it. So we have lunch, and then we had some more agenda items, and then we were really tired. So we asked them to take us back around 3 o'clock, and that's what they did. That evening, we went out to dinner. Much nicer dinner, very traditional. I'm going to tell you right now, Chinese food is not Panda Express. No. Chinese food is extremely, I don't know how to describe it, but it's way too authentic. It's way too authentic for me. I mean, I didn't eat anything that was crawling off the plate, anything like that. It was just, pigeon, eating pigeon. And that was like the best part of this meal, according to them. And I'm just trying to choke it down. It's very salty, very, very dark meat, darker than any part of a chicken. I've had dove before, but everything was like cooked to oblivion. So it was like just chewing on a piece of leather. And, that introduces the opportunity for the boss to chew even louder, more violently. And I'm just thinking about all the tough meat that's getting stuck between my teeth, and I don't have a water flosser. And I'm getting a cigarette thrown at me every minute and a half. I kid you not, every minute and a half. And damn right, I'm ripping that sucker down. Then the alcohol comes out. I shouldn't say then, it comes out from the beginning. And in China, you don't just drink like we do in the US, where you just you have your drink. When you're thirsty, you take a drink. Or when you want a little bit more of a buzz, you opt to have some more alcohol at your own accord. In China, especially at these business dinners, you cheers one another when you want to drink or when you want them to drink. And you never drink without cheersing one another. So constantly you're hearing cheers, cheers, cheers. And, they look at you and raise the glass to your trip. Cheers. You come a long way. Cheers. And you drink and drink, and it's super hard alcohol, like grain alcohol. They call it wine, but it's moonshine. That's what it is. It's moonshine, and you're just taking shots of it. Luckily, the shot glass is like the size of a thimble, but it adds up. And it doesn't taste good. It tastes really bad, actually. Coupled with the food, it's just what a dynamite experience. If you guys can't tell, I'm not a traveler, right? I don't partake in this stuff. I don't take joy in it. This was business for me. But I know that business, in my case, is making friends and schmoozing and embracing it. So I'm really embracing it. I'm really trying. And I did enjoy myself. Don't get me wrong. All right, so the next day we go to the factory. We make some adjustments, and then we go out to dinner that night. The second night, we get picked up in a $300,000 Mercedes Maybach. And the driver, who looks like a 16-year-old kid, is evidently a 38-year-old man. And we're driving through a parking deck to get to this fancy restaurant, and he smacks the Maybach into a pylon. I kid you not. He rakes the back rear panel over a white pylon and gnarls up that whole fender. A little bit of the wheel, too. I mean, the wheel alone probably cost $18,000. And he's, oh no. And me and Steven are like, that did not just happen. And I felt guilty because when you see it coming, when somebody's cutting the corners too tight and you know what's up, and then it happens. It's like watching a kid crawl off a table. Like you knew there was no other way. And you did nothing to stop it. So we park and we get out and we look at the damage, and he's grabbing his hair, and he's being so theatrical about it. And then he just bolts. The guy just bolts, but he's not running away. He's running towards the problem. He runs to the elevator, and we're all just looking at each other. Me and Steven and Jay, my salesman, he's kind of in the middle of it. He's like, taking pictures and saying something. But the guy just bolts. He goes towards the elevator. Me, Jay, and Steven follow him. And we just start going up, and they're both Jay and they're both looking at the photo of the damage, and they're talking in Chinese. And me and Steven are like, are we about to witness an execution, dude? What is about to happen? And we get to like the 4th floor of this mall, and this guy is just bolting through the hallways to get to this restaurant. Like he just knows that the longer he delays this, it's like he's harboring a fugitive in his mind. So they get to the room. They walk into the room before us. I had to use the restroom like bad. I probably just wanted to wash my hands. And I get in there and everything's good. Everything's fine. No one's being executed in front of me. And I'm like, cool. That's a good sign. And we have some drinks. We're having some appetizers. And I say I need to go to the restroom again. Again, probably to wash my hands. And Jay shows me to the closer restroom. I'm walking with him. I'm like, Jay, what happened with your boy? Like, what's going on? And he goes, oh, I told the boss. I'm like, that's not what I'm asking, Jay. What's going to happen to this guy? And he's like, oh, boss says, no problem. He said, that's why we have insurance. I'm like, wow, damn. So immediately I thought either the boss is really cool or that was a flex to show us that money ain't no thing. I'll never know. And I haven't heard from that guy since. There's a lesson in that. So I'll wrap up the China trip. Look, guys, I built a good relationship with the boss. We had a lot of drinks, a lot of cheers, had a really good time, some great dinners. And what was more important, I made really good friends with Jay, the salesman, and Fisher, the product guy. And I found out that that's really, really important because factories do close down overnight. Jay gave me the fair warning that, look, once you're ordering more than like $500,000 worth of product from us a year, diversify, find another factory and split the orders. And I'm like, Jay, I can't do that. I got to get really big orders so I can get better terms and better pricing and speedier orders. Yeah, I know, but no, you can't. I'm like, God, there's another barrier to being big. I place semi-large orders. I do them with this one company. If I split it in half, I'm going to have 2 companies that aren't happy to do business with me instead of one that's kind of happy. It's so counterintuitive, but the reality is, these owners of these companies, they're very well off. They're connected to the party. I don't want to talk about it any more than that. And I don't know. I don't want to get into communism. But they're connected. They're made men. And they like their girls and they like their gambling. So sometimes a gambling debt has to be paid, as Terrence told us on episode 24 with his Mighty Wallet experience. And sometimes they just kind of close up shop overnight. And that's all she wrote. And there you are, caught between the moon and your invention. So I made really good friends with Jay and Fisher, and that ended up being really important because Jay, after a couple of days, started to confide in me his aspirations to start a trading company. And I said, interesting. Now let's go back and talk about what a trading company is. A trading company is a middleman, and Marcus and I have talked about this before where we said, hey, should you go after a manufacturer, a trading company, or both? And what I said in that episode, this is probably way back, episode 8, was you should go for both because then you're getting the best of both worlds. And I still think that's true. But when you find both, here's what's happening. I deal with Jay, and he's what I call both a manufacturer and a trading company, because it's a manufacturing facility that has offices that are prepared to trade with the United States, Europe, Australia, and they're prepared to ship it there. Now, that's very convenient, but you're going to pay for it. Now, what a true, scrappy, small trading company can do, and this is literally, this can be one guy. This can be two people. A trading company, a person like Jay, you go to him, and he'll find the factory that's really making the ball bearings for 9 cents a piece. Okay, you may go on Alibaba and be like, holy cow, I can get ball bearings for 39 cents a piece. This is magical. You know how many hands have passed through to get that price to where it is? Jay will go and find the factory who speaks no English, who does not know how to trade with any other country, and who does not know how to deal with international freight. Those are the guys actually making the ball bearing for 9 cents. And Jay will communicate with them and get that ball bearing for 9 cents. So on and so forth. So you can imagine if you have an invention with 5 or 6 components that all need to be finally assembled in one place. I don't know what to use for an example. Let's say you want to make a box fan. Okay, I got one sitting in front of me. I don't know. Who cares? You can find a factory who will say, yeah, we make box fan. Very good. Ship directly to your door. No problem. $10 a fan. And you say, cool, I can turn around and sell it for $40. That's great. And that may be how you should start. But eventually, when you make better connections, you're going to say, well, damn, how much does that box fan really cost? And you know this box fan blade is injection molded, shoved into a part in a press, and popped out, and this is happening for pennies, if not fractions of pennies. But somehow all of these parts that only cost pennies, parts, pieces that can't cost more than 15, 20 cents at a time, talking motors, bearings, dial knobs, the thermostats, I can't remember any electrical terms, a metal housing on the outside of this box fan, all things that can't accumulate to more than $2. Why am I paying $10? Jay finds out why. And Jay goes to the factories who are making those components, and he figures out how to source it in a more efficient way. And he takes a cut based on the benefits that he gave you. You could never go into those factories and do this yourself. Never, ever, ever. Excuse me. You really can't do anything in China yourself, come to find out. There's no Google. There's no Google Maps. They use Baidu, which you really can't use. It's all in Chinese. There's no English version. You can't find McDonald's near me. You really can't do anything. Maybe there's a way, but it's not simple. I mean, I really tried for hours sitting in that hotel. Like, how can I go and scout out things myself? Maybe, find a new manufacturer while I'm here, trying to be shady. I couldn't do anything, man. And the same goes with sourcing these products. A trading company, someone who you're tight with and who respects you, they'll go and do that work. They'll find that bearing for 9 cents and they'll save you tons and tons of money. Then they'll take their cut and they literally may double the price. Honestly, I would. I think that's the only way you can make money. They may find that they can get that box fan for $3, tell you it's $6, and you're none the wiser. You don't care because you were going to pay $10 on Alibaba and he's offering it to you for $6. Holy hell. Just saved me 40%. Yeah. Shut up and take my money. So I became really tight with Jay. He told me these aspirations to start the trading company. And I'm like, dude, I'll be your first client. Be my middleman. Take you're cut off of it. I don't care what it is. I don't know what they do to the chicken, but it's delicious. That's the whole point. So that was really invaluable. I've been talking with Jay a lot about that stuff. I need to check my messages, by the way. We chat on. Oh, that's a snippet or a pro tip I never gave you guys. WeChat, okay? Not WhatsApp, WeChat. The Chinese love WeChat. I guess it translates just flawlessly. It's what they use to pay one another in China. They're very familiar with it. It's kind of invite only, so you can download it and then ask your manufacturer on Alibaba, say, hey, do you use WeChat? Would you mind inviting me? Because I'm sure that's a more comfortable place for you to communicate with me. Boom, right? Just with that alone, that little hack, you've gotten yourself 50% tighter with this guy, because now you guys are talking like he talks to his buddies about going out and drinking, right? You're on that same platform. Big hint there. WeChat. That'll take you leagues ahead of other people sniffing around on Alibaba. In fact, that's kind of like an insider's thing. That's like when you let your wife in on bro code. You know you shouldn't, but you've been married for 15, 20 years. You're kind of getting out of it. You say, well, when a guy says this, it really means this. And what? And you're like, damn, I just gave up, CIA insider info. But you build relationships, you build trust, and you want to help people, and that's what I'm doing. I built a really good relationship with Jay, and now he is ready to snag the interception if anything goes wrong and help me source factories that can maybe make it a little bit better, maybe a little bit faster. He told me bluntly, I'm probably not going to find anybody that makes it cheaper. I lucked out with my factory. They are a volume turn and burn game, and there is obviously pluses and minuses to anything like that. But I've spent enough time forcing them to make it right that now I have a product that's made affordably and well. I would say I'm sitting at about 93% quality. It's about as good as it's going to get, sad to say. I used to say, I'll accept, 1 or 2% bad product. Bull crap. You're never going to get 98% quality. I've listened to a lot of podcasts. I've talked to a lot of people manufacturing. You're not going to beat 95% quality ever. And the factories just don't care. At one point, they're just sick of hearing about it. And they just don't care. Like, their position is, hey, don't you get it? The people making your products make $33 a day. Shut up. Take your product, sell what you can, and let us know when you're ready for the next order. Well, okay. And eventually you can try to negotiate, hey, a damage credit. Like, look, I know you're not going to lower the price by 15 cents, but maybe you can give me a $2,000 damage credit, because on average, you guys have given me $2,000 worth of junk I can't sell. All right. That's enough of the China trip. I hope I made it clear to you why that was important. How much did I spend? I spent a ton of money. Steven is bougie. Steven, if you're listening, you're bougie, but I love you for it. The dude's well-traveled. You cannot catch Steven off guard during travel plans. He knows where the terminal is. He knows where the lounges are. He knows where the bathrooms are. He knows the pilot's first name. He's on it. But it comes at a cost, because he only knows it if we're flying Emirates, if we're flying business class, bougie, bloody. But I got to admit, when you're flying 20 hours away from home, the quality of flight is highly important. And when you only have 3.5 days with a factory, you got to show up ready. You got to show up fresh. So do what you got to do, spend what you got to spend. We probably spent $12,000 per person just on travel. But, we had meals at every terminal. We had breakfast. We had multiple meals on the flights. Decent night's sleep. I can't sleep on planes. I don't even care if I have a Serta mattress. I can't sleep on a plane. It's like my mind knows to torture me. If you can do it, do it. If you can't do it, don't sweat it. There's enough pearls of wisdom in this podcast to fake it till you make it. I mean, I've said it before. I would do it because you guys know I don't give an F. But if you have to make phony travel plans and at the last minute, grandma's sick, can't make it, if you can do it without being a shyster and a piece of crap and be believable, maybe they'll think, damn, maybe they will have treated you as though you were someone who is going to arrive in 3 months, and they would have kind of got the ship in order. Maybe. I think it's rude. It's probably disrespectful. But look, man, this is business. You got to be so selfish. You got to think of yourself. You got to do what you can. If that's not you, fine. Things are just going to take a little bit longer. Everything I give you in here, if you're uncomfortable with it, from social media, shooting videos, all that, it's all negotiable. It's just going to take a little bit longer. It costs a little bit more money. It's up to you. Now, again, I'm doing this podcast alone. For those of you just tuning in, I lived in Los Angeles since 2015. It's really what I considered my home. I moved there when I was 25, chasing a dream. I just love filming stuff. And I found some buddies who love filming stuff. And we said, well, F it. Let's go to LA. We'll film music videos. We'll help out influencers. We'll do whatever we can. Let's just have fun. And that's what we did. And then both my buddies ended up moving away. And I built roots, got in the trades, got married, started TorkStrap 4 years ago. My wife and I bought a beautiful home, which was the result of a lot of hard work. And to back up, about 8 months ago, my wife was working for Shein, a Chinese company, a piece of shit company. Are those two things connected? I don't know, but they laid her off after her maternity leave, which was completely illegal. But at some point, you just have to not kick a sleeping dog and move on with your life. So they screwed her over. They laid her off right after maternity leave. I'll never forget. She got back from maternity leave and she asked her boss, what was the hot project? What should she work on? And he said, there's not really much to do. Why don't you just brush up on your coding? This is a senior data scientist. That's like telling a surgeon who just got back from maternity leave, we don't have any patience for you, but why don't you go practice your suturing? Very disrespectful. Very misogynistic. So she went to the CTO and she said, hey, look, I'm a little confused. I'm not really placed. I don't really know what to do. This is awkward. And he said, again, Chinese guy. Life is crazy, maybe just focus on your family and try not to stress. Like the writing on the wall was there and the sexism, the misogynism, it was so blatant, but it's their culture. Okay. At the end of the day, it's their culture. And what Shein did was they took Chinese management, imported them from China, stuck them in Los Angeles and San Diego, and had them run U.S. teams. And they did it the way they wanted to do it. And they're getting sued like it's going out of style. They're going to get sued into the Stone Age. And my wife could have jumped on that bandwagon, but we decided that wasn't going to be the way we wanted to live our life, wondering what's next, when are we getting paid, blah, blah, blah. So we took the severance pay, and she left. She was really down. And we were having dinner at a decent restaurant that night. And I said to her, look, don't be down. We live in Los Angeles. We have a nice house. We have so many options. Even if we just sell all this stuff and go move somewhere like Dallas where it's half the cost, which is not true. We come to find out. But even if we go move somewhere like Dallas, Texas, and just get a house for $500,000, no more mortgage, blah, blah, blah. The dream, us big city slickers, we all the dream of going off and living for next to nothing somewhere else, which it never works out like that. But that's what I told her. And for some reason, for the first time in our marriage, she listened to me. And of all the things to listen to me on, why would she listen to me on something I was talking out of my ass? Because I didn't know what I was getting into. I was just trying to give her any relief, any solace in that moment. And she took it to heart, and she found herself a job with Lennar Homes in Dallas, Texas, because they were opening a new office. So she gets the job, and she's killing it. Fast forward 4 months later, and they're saying, hey, Naveen, you took the job in Dallas. We said you could work remote for a bit, but it's time to pony up. You need to move to Dallas. She said, okay. So she visited Dallas and looked at the houses and blah, blah, blah. Turns out it's not cheaper to live in Dallas. They're going to get their money from you one way or another. If you want to have amenities, if you want to live by a Whole Foods, if you want to, you're going to spend $900,000 on a house. If you want the $300,000 house, great. You're going to have a 2-hour commute. It's all bullcrap. And, everybody's friendly, this, that, and the other, but who cares? I don't need friends. I have enough going on with my family. So it's about time to move. It's about time to put up or shut up. And her boss gets on a Zoom call with her and he says, look, Naveen, you're killing it. Why move to Dallas? You're already putting all your stuff in shipping containers. Just go to Miami where the headquarters are. So she asked me what I thought about that. I said, well, damn, he's right. All of our stuff's going on shipping containers. What the hell's the difference to me? I'm already going to be uprooted from my business. What's the difference if I'm 2 hours ahead of these guys versus 3 hours ahead of these guys? So we moved to Miami. I am not going to sit here and explain to you the painful details of a Miami move with 2 kids under 4 years old, one of which screams like a chimpanzee during most hours of the day and night. It was the most challenging thing I've had to do in my adult life. I mean, between hiring movers that ended up being, from what I could tell, homeless people picked up from under the bridge, guys standing around in our house asking me where their cell phone was, like they're 16-year-old boys. And then they finish the job and they're standing around lingering in our house. I already gave them a tip. They're lingering because the boss is trying to figure out how to pay homeless people who don't have cell phones or Venmo or anything. Dear God, and they're lingering and they won't get out of my house and they smell like cigarettes and who knows what. One guy literally brought his home to our driveway. He parked his van in our driveway next to the pods, blocking 3 other neighbors' access to their home because his cat was inside the van of which he lives. And I told him, you got to move the van. And he said, oh, that's not going to happen. My cat's in there. I ain't going to leave my cat alone. I said, I don't give a shit about your cat. How is that my problem? Then just go. Just leave. I didn't say that. I didn't have the balls. But I said, look, dude, you don't have to go home, but your van can't stay here. So let's put it over there. This was the crap I was dealing with the day of my move. And planes, trains, and automobiles, and rental cars and suitcases, and crying babies in bottles, and delayed flights and hotel rooms, and smoke alarms going off in Airbnbs, and fights with the spouse. Long story short, 3 weeks later, we are in our rental house. I am sitting in a fairly cushy garage in Doral, Florida, which is about 30 minutes from Miami. And this is life now. I got no more Marcus. I got no more Steven. I got no more Dan. They're all remote now, as well as am I. I'm in a windowless garage with moving blankets on the walls to reduce the echo. And I have subscribed to the model that I no longer work with my hands in any facet. Not that I had much anyway, but now it's official. I have to let my brain do the work. I have to let my fingers do the work via computer. I have to delegate and I have to inspire. I have to find projects for me to do here and footage for me to shoot here to send to Dan in LA because Dan's the man. And I'm not going to get rid of Dan just because I went to Miami. I'm not going to get rid of Steven just because I went to Miami. No, I've invested in these guys heavily. They've invested in me. We just all got health insurance. That was a huge step for me. Which, by the way, your company that pays you health insurance, they're not doing you any damn favors. Okay, I've seen the numbers now. It's not cheap, don't get me wrong. But I remember when I went to AT&T, I was paying $400 some bucks a month, $410 a month for me and my family. I think it was one kid at the time. So me, my wife, and my kid. And the going thing was, we get good health insurance and bless this company for that. And that's usually people's position. Let me tell you something. You're paying more than they're paying on your health insurance. They're only required to pay 50%. So the total bill for your health insurance for your family a month is like $820. And they're making you pay half of it. That's not much of a favor. They're not. And because they give you health insurance, now they can justify not paying you a very high hourly rate because, you're a W-2 employee with benefits, so you should be able to live on $40 an hour, which, yeah, you can. No complaints. But you're also paying 33% in taxes before you even see it, and you don't get to write off anything in your life. Those boots you paid for, the gloves you're buying, the sunglasses so you can work outside, the sunscreen you're wearing every day, the gas to get to and from the job. No, that's all on you. When you're a business owner, all that's a write-off. Even if you're an independent contractor, all that's a write-off. So going back to the health insurance, don't think that, bless your company's heart, they're not paying that much for your health insurance. You're paying just as much as they are. And they're getting such an insane discount. I would venture to say that you're paying way more towards your insurance than they are helping you. So we get health insurance. I'm not going to get rid of the guys. I'm going to figure out how to make this work remotely. I'm thinking about starting a new podcast for TorkStrap that actually makes me money because, as you guys know, this is just a passion project. And I love it. I love you guys. I love the listeners. I love that I can help. But, damn, Daddy's got to pay the bills. Like, we ran into money problems. This is a slow time of year for TorkStrap. So the guys get paid. I pay myself a very modest salary. I pay myself $52,000 a year. I had to stop my paycheck during this move because this is a slow time of year. We barely sell our break even. Our break even is like $2,000 a day, maybe $2,200 a day in sales. And that's running on a treadmill. And if any new expense comes in, you're running backwards, right? So we're barely hitting our break even. The bank account is no longer slowly going up, it's slowly going down. I stopped my paycheck. I told my wife that, and damn, man, that didn't go over well. But it was just terrible timing. We had to pay a huge deposit on this house. Our renters in LA hadn't paid the deposit yet, so we were just floating everything. Oh, grab a car. Oh, you need electrical. We take $1,000 deposit. Death by 1,000 cuts. But man, what looked like a $25,000 move easily ended up being a $40,000 move. So here I am. We've gotten over that. We got our rent from our renters in LA. We're back right side up. We're able to go back out to eat when we want to, and life is good. First world problems once again. But boy, what a challenging experience. They say moving is as stressful as a death in the family. I've been pretty fortunate in that realm, sure, grandparents, things like that. But I gotta say, this has been really hard, really, really challenging. And plenty of people out there listening, you've done it too. Moving is no new thing. Cry me a river. But you guys know the journey that I'm on. You guys are on it yourself. So I guess the lesson is in there is build your business to function without you. And I don't mean without you. I mean physically without you. Pretend that you have no arms and legs, and all you can do is punch keys with your nose on your computer. If that happened to you today, how long would your business carry on? How long would your money carry on before it ran out? When I was working at AT&T, If a cross arm fell and hit me in the shoulder and wrecked the right side of my body, I would be good for about 3 months. And that's based off of crappy Aflac insurance, a little bit of savings, some workman's comp, and then that's it. Sure, I'd get some disability for the rest of my life, probably a couple $100. But no, that's how you have to look at your business. If I was to get crippled in some way or have a horrible event happen in the family, or someone was to face deportation in my family and I had to move to, Timbuktu to be with them, would my business still run? And if the answer is no, work on that every single day. Not trying to sit here and brag, but I kind of did that. Yeah, of course, I feel like a phony because it's slow right now and we're barely hitting our break even, but kids are going back to school. Hey, anybody out there who's selling something right now, I just dealt with this with Ricardo. This time of year sucks, notoriously. You're going to feel like a failure. You're going to feel like a phony, an imposter. Just ignore all that crap because the kids are going back to school. The boats are getting put away. The water toys are gone. The Roundup is coming out. People are winterizing. People are desummerizing. The pool is filled with algae. No one even wants to jump in that mofo anymore. This time of year sucks butts for sales. Okay, so don't feel bad. It's going to pick up in late October when people start sniffing November coming around that corner. Then they're going to start having some walking around money. They're going to want to buy some shoes. They're going to want to get a gold chain. They're going to want to start thinking about them deals. So it's coming, okay? Cool your jets. Talking to myself, 100%. And that's where I'm at, everybody. Look, this has been really personal. I hope no one brand new is tuning into this thinking, who is this dude riffing about his life? Who the hell cares? But I always try to be very real with you on this show. And I always try to give you something really tangible that you can relate to. And I hope that this episode has been that for you. So, without further ado, thank you guys for listening. I hope I didn't forget anything. I hope this episode met expectations of whatever title and thumbnail I end up coming up with. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're listening, certainly follow the show on whatever platform you may be on. This has been the Invent With Me podcast. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.